Okay, hello everyone. Welcome back to another Chief Delegate meeting. This is meeting number 15, and it is Thursday, January 27th. And yeah, we've been having some banter, lots to discuss today. So let's kick it off with some individual updates. I'm gonna use the Aaron Cox method and say, Aaron, you're on my this is my right, but on my screen it's my left. Aaron, take it away. What you got for us?
I am going to be in the same position as last time, essentially. The working groups have kind of taken priority over most things, but like I mentioned last week, I've started to shift resources back onto our projects. It's just these papers that are going to be released due to the work with the working groups. They're going to impact everything. They're like, we're writing stuff in the blue papers that'll impact the account creation stuff we're even talking about today. So it's like, on one hand, I have this thing that I'm like, okay, we didn't have a defined process to move forward with and give a global solution. So I'm going to propose in Eden to build this thing for Anchor to help with onboarding. And now on the other hand, I have this blue paper written that has another solution that is more widely available for all networks and all wallets and all this other stuff. It's obviously a much bigger project, but it's a balancing act between the two of them at this point. I'm excited for both of them. The Anchor one specifically may be short-lived. Maybe it'll be really used this year, and then by the end of this year, we'll have something more global. I don't know, or maybe we need to stick on the Anchor one that we have almost completed now because these papers don't get any legs. We have a really uncertain future that I shouldn't say uncertain. That makes it sound like it won't happen. We just don't know how all of this stuff's going to be prioritized. So, and that's going to be up to the community. I hope up to this group is like, maybe we can talk about some of that stuff once everything's presented, as to how it impacts EOS and how it impacts Eden and how it impacts the other systems we participate in. So I'm excited for that to be done. I'm tired. The joke of me drowning in blue papers being a Nightline special.
I'm gonna make it happen.
Yeah, we just got to do like the intro.
Yeah, we just need a voiceover. Aaron
Right.
Cox drowning in blue papers, the Aaron Cox story.
It's been an adventure these past couple months since we've all started in Eden. And I mean, I think you can see that through all of from the day we joined to where we all are as individuals now, and so many other people in the community have similar stories. So this place is crazy. I love it.
I'm glad that this is what does it for you, because if we didn't have you pinned to your screen 24 hours a day, where would we be, really?
Right. Just need a little bit less of it. Like, the intensity cannot keep up with the pace that we've all been flying at, or at least I know I've been going at. So
your service is commendable. Jesse, what do you got for us this week?
Hey everyone. I don't have anything new to present this week, but we did come out with the infographic, the EOS DApp ecosystem. And I know I mentioned it a few times that this will be a work in progress for as long as the bees are a thing. This will be a work in progress. And so we're going to be updating it at the very least every quarter. And so if you think that there are some projects that shouldn't be on there or should be on there, please send me a message, join our Discord, or DM us on Twitter. We have a document that we're just keeping track of everything. And so, yeah, we're taking feedback. And it's not very helpful to say there's a bunch of dead projects on here, or there's a bunch of projects on Telos on here. Like, we want the details. We want to get this right. And we are doing research. Like, we are trying to get this as good as possible. So just, send us a message. That'd be great. So we're recording this on January 27th. We're almost at the end of the month. I'm very excited for the end of the month because that's when all the hives are going to turn in their work that they've done, their bounties that they've done. And we're going to be going through that. I'm going to be making a global newsletter. So I'll have a lot more stuff next week. And just to kind of summarize kind of the other stuff we're working on, I'm basically waiting for development work from 3 entities. We have a project with EOS support that I explained last week. Haifa DAO, we're waiting for their new update. It's called multi-tenant, where they're going to have like a Discord thing, and then each DAO is going to be like a little thing on the side like Discord. Following them, they're not ready. And then Tippet, we have a project with Tippet where they're helping us develop a technological solution to properly incentivize our swarms, which I kind of underestimated. It's been a lot harder than I thought it was going to be to incentivize people just to like and retweet a post. It's actually like really hard. So we're kind of just waiting on those projects. And in the meantime, we're doing what we can do. The hives are doing their thing. I've already spent all my budget for the Global Hive report coming out in a week or 2. And so we'll talk then.
Very cool. Chris, you're next on my screen. What you been up to?
Cool. Not much on the main focus for getting in terms of the BP transparency bit. So yeah, nothing new on the past week for that. Some progress on another initiative that's sort of around the same thing, but it's more of a larger project that's going to be hopefully announced in a month or so, or less. Actually, could be less now. So I can't say much because it's not announced. So I don't want to give it away, but that's coming. So yeah, kind of don't really have anything else to add. It's been kind of a slow week from this front, so I apologize. But I mean, things are happening. It's just, and the one thing does use the Eden process. I'm trying to include it as part of the DAO governance, which is kind of cool. And yeah, so I guess I'll just leave it there.
Cool. Yeah, and we know everyone here is trying to catch up with multiple hat Aaron. So we know that everyone's spinning lots of plates and wearing lots of hats and all those things. So
We all have our blue papers.
Yep. Yep. Someday we can make our blue papers into a raft and use them to navigate the waters. John, how are things over in your the wacky new world that you're living in between Violet Garden and Clarianos and the future?
Good. Been writing some contract stuff, which has been fun. Learning a few things, and given that I'm working with Clarion, it's pretty cool being able to get direct connections to the guys that built the damn thing. So it's pretty neat. So I was like, updates though, I haven't got any public ones really, but yeah, just been chugging away at Clarion stuff.
Cool.
John, I don't think you ever announced. I saw something that you can mint NFTs now with Violet Garden.
Yeah. I think there's a couple bugs there. It's a bit tricky because I got to generate the image on the server before it can then happen on chain, and it's not the cleanest of solutions. But yeah, NFTs are a thing.
Very cool. Look forward to playing around with that. And Randall, how you doing? What's up with you?
So we are working very hard with the platform development. I was able to, get my crew and Lucas' crew together. So now we started talking about how we can implement port to help with how we will onboard users onto your support, the sign-in process. So we started discussing that. That was good. We just finished writing the code for our reward system, so that is actually completed. So we are basically working, doing the best that we can to get some of these tools available so that we can have a platform where people can get incentivized, rewarded, and use the algorithm that we've built. And I was able to get in contact with Michael O'Sullivan. Shout out to him. You know, he brought up some good points that your support might look into. I actually thought through it today because I had a meeting with him. So basically, he wants us to implement an AI that can also help with, you know, the information that we are presenting to the community, because there has to be a way that there is no bias. And I think that's also something that we're going to be working on. So I'm very excited about that. So all in all, things are going great. We're still working hard. And we are providing services in terms of like the human touch, the human services that your support provides. We are always doing it. That one has never been stopped. We have, I think, a lady that wants to join from the Italian community because she wants to provide support for the people that speak only Italian. But you know, because of budget, we want to be a little careful and, you know, take it one step at a time and see. Yeah.
Hey, Randall. So I saw an article today by Alfredo on Bywire, and the first line said translated in Italian. And I was like, there's an Italian speaking US community. And so I DM'd him, and he sent me a Telegram channel. I think it was like a bunch, like 500 people in there.
Yeah.
In that channel. I mean, if there's a legit community, let me know and send me someone.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. I will get in touch with the lady that approached us regarding the translation, and I've also had a conversation with Alfredo as well. It's just that some people see things a little differently, so he wants to work in a different manner, in that he wants to write articles and do his own things. But we had a conversation, so there is indeed a Italian community, and I will discuss with him, and I'll talk to the lady as well, and then we will get in contact with you.
Awesome. Thanks for the work that you and Dario and everyone else at support is doing. I know I've sent a few people your way that were having various issues, so it's nice to be able to do that. Nice to know where to send people. Yeah, as for me, still deep in the getting involved in the ENF, and just a lot to process and just getting up to speed, feeling pretty good now. And as far as the Eden community goes, I promised I would send out one recognition grant from my budget. It's going to go out to Lenny for his work doing summaries. I haven't decided how much I want to send yet, but it'll be nice. And I guess I was just thinking if anyone else in the community is, I know the all delegate meeting happened, and I haven't had a chance to listen to that whole meeting yet. I just caught the beginning. But I know there's some talk about doing some sort of recurring meetings. So if people want to petition me for help with budget on any of that, feel free to reach out. My Telegram is open.
So Brian, I
yeah.
have a quick question for you. So you know, most of the delegates, they have a budget as well, right? They're getting some budget. I mean, it's not big or anything, but are they paying themselves? I mean, because some of them can use some of the budget to pay themselves, right?
I don't know the specifics of, I haven't been tracking what the delegates are doing with their funds, to be honest. but yeah, it's, as you mentioned, it's not a huge amount of money. And now, depending on how you look at it, especially with the price of everything being way down right now. So overall, I find the delegate budget to be pretty underwhelming. It's more like an honorarium at this point for people that are already, participating and contributing to EOS, EdenOnEOS. So yeah, I feel like, given that I'm essentially employed by the ENF now and receiving, I'm getting paid from the network essentially now for my work with the ENF. So it kind of makes my budget with the Eden like I would rather just redirect it to your projects and other people that can use it in the network that are not getting paid a sufficient amount from for their contributions. So yeah.
Lovejoy,
yeah.
were you on the fireside chat yesterday? What did you think of what Dogman said?
Yeah, that's what I was kind of referencing, because he was alluding to a conversation that happened on that all delegate call, which I was just saying I hadn't listened to the whole thing yet. And that's part of the reason I kind of moved that up in my queue of things to watch. Yeah, I think it's an interesting,
you want to describe what it is first?
Yeah, so as far as I understand, he's proposing kind of, it's like he and Chuck McDonald, I know, have been doing a lot of thinking in this domain. And the idea is to kind of take regular meetings with delegates or anyone from the Eden community that wants to show up and participate, and use a consortium polling mechanism in some way to arrive at like topics that they want to cover, and just try to do like a weekly thing, similar to what Eden 2.0 is going to be, and use it to recognize what people are contributing on a weekly basis, ahead of, they're kind of like taking the attitude of, well, let's not wait for 2.0 to just start getting together and using the consensus process for whatever, and I support the idea of, I think it was a cool term I think Chuck came up with, which is fractal forums, the idea of using the process to identify ideas, valuable topics, and I'm all for just experimenting with the process. And if we can get people that want to show up and do it, awesome. That's the main thing I see holding us back, is just limited human bandwidth right now. There's so many people that have so many other engagements to attend to within the EOS community. And then if they're not employed in EOS, then they're probably working a full-time job or dealing with other stuff. And so there's just, when an official quote unquote election is called, it tends to pull in more people, because there's all that energy directed at a single point in time for everyone to show up. But when I'm curious, and
so he said he only needs 16 people.
Yeah, I was just going to say
2 rounds
that.
of 4. Yeah. And I think,
Yeah, so,
at least from a content perspective, it's valuable.
Yep.
Because we're kind of lacking that in the EOS space.
Yeah, I'm willing to contribute, like I said, from my budget to that process, if people want to get together and experiment with using fractal, style governance to achieve any outcome that they want. I'd love to watch. I'd love to see what happens. So yeah. Well, that's my update and a bit more. We had a few topics we wanted to cover, and the first among them was this idea. I haven't read James Mart's opinion piece that he wrote, I guess, on exchange BP's voting and the merits of that. But if Jesse, you brought it up, if you want to give us a little introduction and lead it off.
Yeah, I think I should read the first 2 paragraphs. It kind of sums it up pretty good. Could I share my screen?
Yeah, 1 second.
Always nice.
I should do this before we get going, but I failed to do it. Okay, you should be good.
Pull it up, Jamie.
It took me a second. I was like,
You guys
"You're doing that, Jamie. What is he talking about?" I get it now.
What?
It was the Joe Rogan reference.
Yeah,
He's got his guy who pulls up stuff on the video screen.
it's just like a compilation of him just saying, "Oh, pull it up, Jamie," or "Pull that shit up, Jamie. Hey, pull it up."
Yeah. All right. Always appreciate James Mart's thinking, so this will be good. You're our narrator, though, Jesse.
Yeah, am I coming through? Okay.
I only heard your question, whether you're coming through okay. I haven't heard anything before that.
Well, okay, good. I didn't say anything before that. All right. So there was an interesting kind of thread on Twitter, and Chris was involved. And I think that influenced the timing of this repost by James Mart. This was posted on Voice in 2020, and he's reposted it on Medium. And it argues that BP exchanges voting with their users' funds is not a problem. So I'm going to read these first 2 paragraphs. Here goes. Crypto exchanges use a fractional reserve ratio to make sure they keep enough liquid EOS to allow their users instantaneous withdrawals. But they need not keep any capital beyond their reserve amount in EOS. They could easily hold the rest of their capital in Bitcoin, or lend the additional capital out at interest, or simply hold it in USDT to remove some volatility risk. Instead, exchanges that are voting are choosing to assume additional risk by keeping excess capital within EOS for the purpose of staking and voting. For that reason, it's incorrect to imagine that an exchange is voting with its users' EOS without their permission. Rather, the exchange is a business using its own capital beyond what is strictly necessary to keep in EOS-denominated liquid reserves in order to invest in the EOS network. Any holder of EOS who leaves their EOS on an exchange or
We lost Jesse.
Yeah, Jesse, you froze up at
Any holder of the EOS who leaves their EOS on an exchange or even simply doesn't participate in staking and voting is equivalent to the holder of Bitcoin who has no interest in mining and is therefore implicitly opting out of participating in consensus. One thing I don't like about it is like, you know, when you see your account balance of 500 EOS on the exchange, you believe and you want the exchange to be fully solvent, you know, on that for your withdrawal. And so they're essentially operating not entirely, you know, solvent in that very moment. And again, if there's a case of a bloody panic and people do want to sell and, you know, bail out, that's not something that they're going to be able to do because they're too busy, you know, voting with their tokens on the network to do so. So someone could be left holding the short end of the stick if they did want to bail out. Well, yeah, if there was a mass bank run, essentially.
Yeah. Like I wonder if that's just a rational explanation versus a factual explanation. Like, is there any evidence to suggest that exchanges actually do sell tokens? Like, because it's in their account. So like the Binance has an on-chain EOS account. So I don't see those moving around. I mean, it's rational what he said, but I don't know if that's actually how it goes. Does anyone know?
yeah, no, but like you just said, we can see it in their account. Like the fact that they're able to vote the fact that they have a large voting influence implies that it is in their account, and what he's saying is factual,
No, I mean,
because
it's,
they couldn't do it without.
the factual question is the alternative. So if they didn't do that, is it factual to suggest that exchanges take these tokens and then sell them for USDT and Bitcoin?
Oh,
Like
Oh,
that's,
yeah, I don't
that's the
know.
assumption he's making to justify the argument. So
Right.
I mean, it's a good argument, it's rational, but I just don't
we
know.
don't know because we can't audit we don't know if, say, 20 million EOS in the exchange's account is equivalent to all the EOS holders' balances or not, because we don't have any way to audit the books necessarily.
But
So-
there's one thing that's for sure though. They are giving a good rate. Okay, they're giving a good maybe 6%, I think. So what is happening is people are just leaving their tokens on there so that they can get some interest rate, a good interest rate. So I feel like at the end of the day, some people forego staking, right, in their own wallets just to get some good rates in the exchanges, and the exchanges are benefiting from that by voting with their tokens. So I guess that's what the exchange is getting in return for whatever that they are giving to the users, I guess, right? So I feel like it's not ideal, but because of the way the system is set up,
To Chris's point, I think that he is laying out the potential alternatives. I'm not sure what other alternatives the exchanges have. And so
Don't vote. That's what Upbit does. Upbit has 135 million EOS in their cold wallet. They don't vote with
they
it.
don't vote.
Right.
Okay, so that's something that he left out. But not voting is like he's describing the options that are incentivized economically. Like the fact that Upbit doesn't vote is irrational economically.
yeah, actually, it's not the right thing for them to do. They're supposed to be voting with the tokens.
It's not irrational when you consider how they consider the context of like law
No,
in
but they
South
should vote.
Korea.
Exactly.
They don't wanna
Perfectly
vote.
rational. It's economically rational because if they did vote, they'd get shut down.
Okay,
So
so
they'd get
it's
punished.
politically
Oh.
rational. It's politically rational, not economically.
and
rational.
therefore economically rational.
Oh, okay, I see.
Sure.
What it's. Also, they are not allowed to vote with users' tokens.
It's not clear, but they definitely, I mean, so here's the question. Why would why would it be politically, like, what's the reasoning? Why would the government have anything against it? What's the problem? Maybe because it's not ethical.
All right.
Well,
Is that an actual law, Chris? In
It's not that
Korea?
it's a law. My understanding is that they want to have a good relationship with the government and the regulators so they can have a thriving business. And because crypto is such a questionable emerging thing as it is, that they want to not do things that are questionably not ethical. So is it questionably unethical to vote on behalf of customers' tokens who've never actually opted in to them doing so? And not even just voting, becoming a block producer and then voting for yourself to collect inflation from the network and trading those tokens with other exchanges that do the exact same thing. I mean, the ethical questions kind of multiply when you start stacking them on top of each other.
Well, I think anytime the exchange performs an action that doesn't make them solvent anymore in that moment should have some sort of asterisk, or the user should have to opt in, or that some sort of restriction on that. But on another layer as well, just the base practice of doing these, this process of IOU, you transfer them 50 EOS and they credit your account on a centralized
Fractional
data.
reserve.
Yeah, but just the behavior of, again, tracking what you owe to someone based on a centralized database kind of thing, and something that can mount GOCs is reckless already. Are we keen on some sort of decay thing so exchanges can still operate, but the EOS that they hold will start decaying over a certain time, so they have to put it back into, you know, the actual owner's, you know, EOS account or something. I don't know. But like, what stops Binance or, you know, whatever exchange from Mt. Goxing? And like, how the hell do we move away from this, you know, practice? Yeah, well, like bullish, or, you know, moving towards, you know, decentralized, you know, exchanges. So I think, you know, it's
I think
there's a bigger bullish track stats on a blockchain, I believe, anyway.
Yeah, so John, I think that the thing is the system has to give more yield to the token holders to prevent these type of things from happening.
But it's still a centralized exchange. Like,
yeah, I think
so was bullish.
Yeah, Randall, your point is that there needs to be a greater incentive for token holders to not want to store their tokens on an exchange. But the Mt. Goxing, the thing is crypto. So, I mean, we have like amnesia of the past. Most people in crypto weren't around during Mt. Gox. And the lesson for Mt. Gox is not your keys, not your tokens. So like self-custody, but there hasn't been a big enough recent Mt. Gox. Like there was Quadriga CX in Canada, and that guy, you know, passed away in India with the keys to the 100 and whatever million he had, right? Like people just, I don't know. It's like you kind of get what you deserve, unfortunately. And EOS kind of, unfortunately, in my view, is we're kind of getting what we deserve. Like this network has not been thriving. And my view is that a lot of that is to do with the vampiric nature of the backbone, which are the BPs who are collecting the inflation, and the fact that great BPs have not been rewarded. And Aaron's here, like he's had to, I mean, you could speak for yourself, but I'm sure it's been super difficult for you to try to maintain funding and keep your BP in a paid position. And you see guys like EOS Costa Rica keeps coming up. Those guys do so much in the ecosystem, and they aren't in a paid spot right now. The EOS, the microloan, right? They were using part of their BP reward. Now, this is a questionable one, but they were using that reward to help fund legal bills for people who were arrested in Venezuela using EOS as a currency. Like that's still, to me, using network inflation to help promote this ecosystem. So it's like, I don't know, like the people who argue that everything's okay and this is fine the way it is, I don't understand their view that like, it's just like, it's almost like you don't want to hear that it's not good because you've got so much in EOS. It's like, that's FUD. That's not going to pump my price. Just rah. Like you got to like be a little bit more objective about what's good and bad. And maybe it hurts a bit to change the status quo and how DPoS is, but the long-term gain is hopefully will outweigh the short-term pain.
I mean, to kind of jump back to where you mentioned gray mass, it's like I joined Eden because BP, like we weren't well enough positioned as a BP to do the things we think need to be done, you know, add that value you're talking about. I think that my attention specifically has started to align more with block producers just produce blocks now that new methods are coming online to create value. And I mean, along that same line of thinking, maybe the solution is that once all of these systems that come online, whether it be Pomelo, ENF grants, or any other method that comes up, is just to start reducing BP pay so that it's not attractive to exchanges. Like, let's just give them enough to operate the network and have people to be able to do that, and then have the value creation activities coming from somewhere else that's not abusable in quotes, because I don't even know if it's abuse at this point. Have them tap into some other system. I mean, I think even back in the days when I was in Steam, and Steam for reference was not companies as block producers, it was people. So like I, as Jesta at that time, I was a BP, just me as an individual. It was no entities. Well, there were a few, but anyways. But even back then, there was a large push to, hey, BPs should just be BPs. Like we shouldn't muddy the water because it's really hard to justify the value add that a BP brings. And I think originally I was against that throughout my time in Steam because I was a BP, because I was adding value. I was building wallets and tools and trying to bring new social media interfaces to Steam. And I was against that, but I think over the years now, maybe I'm starting to see that it's possible to go that route. And maybe that's the solution in quotes, to the issue we're looking at now. It's not that exchange BPs are a problem. it's that we expect more of BPs than realistically we should. We just didn't have an alternative.
Great point.
Personally, I think it's like these aren't mutually exclusive. Like it's not like it's either BPs only do infrastructure or they only do everything. Like why can't, like I think having the ENF is absolutely key, and there's no argument for me that they shouldn't exist and that entity shouldn't exist. But that doesn't mean we still can't have BPs that are part of the community and give back.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't mean we can't have.
So Chris, so I think what would happen is they will have the choice, right? The choice of doing extra, but we have to have like a fundamental agreement that BPs just produces blocks, and this is how much we are going to give them for that, right? And then if you want to do more, kudos to you, pretty much.
Yeah, and then you go through Eden and you go through these other things if you want to do more.
Or the BPs are just held accountable for spending their reward from being a BP properly. So that can be done if there were a body, a committee that was formed, almost like the OIG in Wax, and that body kept tabs and formed relationships with participating BPs. And if those BPs are willing to disclose enough of their financial information to demonstrate that, hey, look, here's what we got and here's how we spent it. We've got labor, we've got infrastructure, and here's a project that we're investing in. Here's some marketing we did. If that came, okay, fine, great. To me, that's like, that would be in my perfect world would be all the VPs disclosing what they did and doing good things with those funds. But right now they could never do that because they take the reward and they buy votes with it. Right. So they would never pass that smell test because they're not giving anything back. There's like this minimal cost of infrastructure and sweet fuck off for everything else that's like media and having a website that works and like the sock puppets. Like, holy crap. I was clicking through some of the websites today again just to check, and like Binance's sock puppet goes to their friggin' website. Like they didn't even hide the fact it's a sock puppet. Like click through, go to blocks and click through the ones that don't have a Telegram handle or a Twitter handle and see how many of those web pages don't resolve. Those are all sock puppets, just vampirically sucking from the network.
How many sock puppets does Binance have?
I don't know. One is obvious because it resolves to their exchange page.
Okay.
I mean,
come on, at least hide
just
it.
in that sense, I could update our BP to point to Binance too, and it would look that way. So
You wouldn't. I'm just saying the fact, like obviously
I wouldn't.
Yeah,
Why
or
would
maybe
you want to?
maybe it's a smoke screen and someone else is doing it, or it actually is
Maybe.
Binance's sock puppet.
Yeah,
It's not me.
it very well could be. I mean, I'm pretty sure Binance has two accounts, but I'm not certain. And also one quick point on that, like the OIG, the only reason the OIG works is because there is a massive stakeholder backing that. The Wax team has a huge amount of tokens and created the OIG to kind of act as a body to help them not directly influence governance, but have a body of voting power that instilled their values. So we could potentially do that within EOS. I don't know if anybody has, I mean, the Wax team has a significant amount of tokens, and I don't know that
How many, Aaron?
EOS, I don't know.
You
More
can look.
than 50%?
I honestly don't know.
Oh.
It is more than anybody on EOS, because EOS, I think the Wax team has more than 10%. Like I'm confident in that. And in EOS, the EOS ecosystem, nobody has more than 10%, basically. I mean,
Well, nobody
maybe
has more than 3% now after.
well, I mean, if this exchange we were talking about earlier, okay, is that it?
Up it.
Up it.
Oh, you're right. Right.
If they have 130, that might be 13%, but arguably not theirs, but that's the biggest pool, and it's not enough to make or break the complete picture of EOS BP selection. It'd be a huge impact, that's for sure. But
What's taking them so long to vote?
Exactly what we started this off with, just the
legal problem?
just how do you do it ethically, right? So
Yeah.
who do they vote for? That's the question, right?
yeah.
Right.
Well, and another exchange that we don't bring up is Coinbase. I don't think Coinbase votes, do they? They're holding users tokens.
They don't hope. They don't vote.
And they're not a
No.
BP either, are they? No, they're not.
No.
No.
So there are other exchanges like this. I don't think any of them are nearly that large, but
Here you have the top
So,
wax token
Aaron, do
holders.
you think that the ENF will be successful in
yes.
you know, pitching on pitching on
Good answer.
trying to reduce the inflation for block producers?
I don't know. I mean, I'm just spitballing ideas here. I haven't
I like
talked to
that
them
idea.
about that idea. That is me as a block producer thinking about, okay, if I am a block producer and I'm also a value creator, if the value creation, if that can be funded elsewhere, then I, as a BP, would be willing to take a reduction in BP pay to the point as to where it covers my operational costs and staff and that kind of things. But I don't need to depend on that to build things like Anchor. Telos has a model that kind of does this. The amount of BP pay goes up and down depending on the price of Telos to try to give each BP a set amount of funding per month. That's not super great for teams like mine who depend on BP rewards to create value. But I think that's one of the reasons why you don't see the same type of exchanges engaging in that way, is because it's a designated amount.
Yeah, Telos did a few things that since I've become part of the Telos Foundation, I've read their TBNOA, which is their Telos block producer operating agreement, I think. So they have the top 21 all get the same pay. So it doesn't go up as you go up the ranks. So that reduces the incentive to want to pay for votes, to move yourself up to get more pay. The 30 standby producers also all get the same. So it's 21 get the same, then 30 below that get half of that amount, but it's all the same. So again, no incentive to move yourself up. The 21st block producer is rotated out randomly. I believe it's random with the 30 below. So all standby producers get tested. So that removes the sock puppets who don't have any infrastructure. So that's better. And then, the other thing they do, it's interesting, is they ensure that you vote for 30 BPs. And so you lose it's inversely weighted. So if you don't vote for the full 30, you lose the power of your vote. So it encourages a broad distribution of votes as well.
I think WAX is similar in the pay structure, but it has the completely different thing living on top of it. The OIG.
Cool. I'm going to suggest we move on to another topic now, unless anyone else has anything they want to add to that before we do.
Thanks, James, for your
Yeah.
thoughts.
Yeah. Way to go, James. Causing fights. No, just kidding. All right. We had another topic here, which was John brought up earlier that Clarianos is going to be announcing tomorrow. I guess if we can get this out fast enough, this will matter.
This will be old news quick.
This might be old news.
Means you can
but-
spill the beans.
Oh yeah, you could. We have an embargo on this video until after the announcement on Friday. No. But I don't know, John, you want to say anything?
Nah, it's just happening. Stay tuned. Get keen.
Cool. Maybe this will be out before, maybe not. We don't know. That was kind of a non-topic, I guess. Real quickly, just to comment on the lawyers and the legal opinion. Someone want to update where that's at?
Yeah, so we had a meeting before the holidays, and they told us that we need to wait after the holidays, and then I believe it was like 2 to 3 weeks after the holiday. And so I was going to bring this up last week. We are still in contact. So if anyone's wondering about like how a legal entity would work with a set of chief delegates like us, we're still pursuing that. Just the point I want to say, we're still pursuing that. We've asked them to write us an opinion letter and they're working on that. So we'll have updates with that hopefully soon.
Great. I will add that because we are still pursuing our promise to have some sort of like a way to form an organization that the next chief delegates can utilize to make decisions. We are hoping that Dan will follow through with the bylaws that he said he was going to write for Eden 1.0, because we want to know his thought process. So hopefully he will give us like a draft or whatnot so that we can look at. So if you
I
want
would say doubtful, Randall. I believe the bylaws will be about Eden 2.0, if I were to guess.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe if not bylaws for 1.0, then at least a rationale for why 2.0 like mitigates the need for bylaws as would be needed in 1.0. So and then we could know by inverse what the bylaws of 1.0 should be based on what 2.0 is solving. That'd be kind of fun. Yeah, that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
Besides that, we're going to touch briefly on the naming confusion and try to disambiguate all the stuff that's going on with EOS.io, Mandel, EOS, what have you.
Sorry, Lovejoy, wasn't there a topic about that 1.0 was still going to happen? And that sounded like a good segue into that.
Yep, that's still on the list here. We can jump into that now if you want to. That was a good segue, you're right. So Chuck, make it a segue. So yeah, Eden 1.0, does it coexist? Will it coexist with 2.0? What is the intent there, and how would it coexist? Anyone want to share any thoughts on that matter?
I can do an intro. So in the call or the YouTube video of Eve, Dan, and Zach, I believe Dan had mentioned that Eden 1.0 will continue, and the next election will be in April. The April 9th election will be Eden 1.0. And so there's going to be a new set of chief delegates. We thought that we were going to be the one and only chief delegates, but there's going to be new chief delegates. We're going to have a new election. And so it's just really interesting. Like our mindset, I feel like we've been drifting towards, okay, this is not going to happen. And now it is. And so, yeah, what do we think about that?
Yeah, I think it's great. We have Eden 1.0, which is solving a different set of issues, and it has a different set of ideas that we all think that is worth looking into. So if the ENF is listening, right, we are hoping that they are gearing towards funding Eden 1.0, right, so that we can continue this experiment and at least try to polish it as much as we can and see where it goes from here. Because I think a lot of people are counting on Eden 1.0, right? Because the idea is that, or I would say the problem that it's solving is interesting, and we like it. Mm-hmm.
Eve's cookie round 2?
Possibly.
I mean, sorry.
No, go ahead. I was just going to make a joke.
Oh, okay. No, I was going to say, I think we need to stop calling this Eden 1.0. This is just Eden now. What comes out tomorrow has a new name, and it's not Eden 2.0. That is something new that's coming out, and this is still Eden, for better or worse. But when we have a treasury, the treasury is still, like, we've only tapped into a fraction of it so far. So the next people who get elected will have their treasury, just like we all have today. But the big point of contention, I think, that may require more funding is that Eden still needs a development team. Like, I know my excitement level is going to drop drastically if nobody is improving this. Like, it's just, this system needs to evolve. We originally thought when Eden 2.0 was starting to be talked about that this system would evolve. Like, this was the evolution of the system. Turns out that's not true. There's just a new thing coming, and that leaves Eden in just this undefined state with no development team, no roadmap.
But it's stable, Aaron, right? Like the core thing is the election, and we have that, and
We
works
can't
and
run
it's
an
stable.
election.
No, we need a development team. It's like we're building a car. We started off with the engine. We didn't build the transmission. We don't have a exhaust pipe. Man, this car is incomplete.
But we do have a development team, Aaron. The Clarion team is going to do the April 9th election.
Yeah, I'm hoping
Sure.
that
Are they?
I'm hoping that we will.
I don't
get-
know.
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Last I heard in the update before they stopped doing their weekly calls, when it was Fancher and Manfredi talking, and maybe this is outdated now, they on that call they signaled that they're moving to whatever Eden 2.0 is called, and that we'd need to find somebody from the community to keep maintaining 1.0, and that that kind of took the wind out of my sails at that point in time when I heard that on the call, because I felt like, it just seemed like a way of saying we're not going to support this going forward. So I don't really know what the answer is, but I felt like if they're not
So
going to do it, I don't know who else
older.
is suited to do it. Is that old news?
Yeah, Dan changes his mind very frequently, and the latest piece that Dan had said in the video.
Cliffhanger.
I see, right, exactly.
man.
I'm totally thinking cliffhanger. Same thing, yeah.
Jesse, you
Yeah.
froze in
What did he
case you can't tell.
Ah,
Sorry.
Okay, you're back.
You're back?
Yeah,
now.
you're back now.
Back.
The latest thing
Uh,
Dan had said in the video.
yeah, that the election's happening on April 9th. And so that implies that the Clarion team is going to conduct that election. That's the latest piece. And what Dan says, that's what's happening. And so to me, that means that they're
John.
running it on April 9th.
John, what is going on? So give us insight. What is happening? Do we have a team or we don't have a team?
Yeah, I don't know what to say without divulging privileged information. Other than, I'm sitting out of this one.
Okay, I have another question for you.
Insiders that
Are we
can't
going
talk.
to get account creation? I mean, are we still going to get resolution for
Account recovery.
Account recovery is coming. There, the ball is rolling.
All right, and a little bit of accounting so that we can hold people accountable, or not?
Accounting.
Yeah,
Treasury.
are they still working on accounting system so that we can trace how each person is using their money and going through what they said they were going to do?
I didn't even know that was a thing, but it's it's a blockchain, so if the community wants that, it'll be easy enough to build. Again, we can see everything that happens on the chain.
Okay. All right. So I guess what we would do is as chief delegates, we have to come together and see who we can hire to maintain the code and how we can move forward, just in case if the Clarion team cannot do this, because we have developers out there. right?
Yeah, well, I don't know. It's hard to make these discussions now because again, you guys don't know what Eden 2.0 is, but again, there's no solutions. There's only trade-offs, right? So when you see Eden 2.0, you know, we can then conclude is if Eden is worth keeping around, or how many resources are worth putting towards it, because every resource that we put towards Eden is not a resource going towards Eden 2.0, and then so then you gotta figure out
it's just 1 day of resources
One
day
For what?
for the
to run an
election.
Oh yeah, but then for what? You continue chief delegates to then do what? I don't know. Like
I don't know. That's
still...
what Dan said. That's what Dan said. So,
You need to come up with a purpose, it sounds like.
John, what did you say Eden 2.0 is called again?
This is so scary. This is freaking me out.
all right. So I have a question for everyone here. Maybe just interesting, kind of entertaining a little bit to talk about. If Eden 1.0, or I'm sorry, if Eden is happening on April 9th, will everyone here be running in that election?
Will anyone here be running?
Yeah, let's.
I shouldn't.
I
I'm already
might.
getting paid by network inflation to work for the ENF, so I'm not going to apply
All right, so
for a
Lovejoy's
second
no.
job. Yeah.
I might rock up to the election, but I wouldn't run. I wouldn't want to go to the next round. I don't think think it'd be best to let someone else go through and take the reins, sort of thing.
I'll encourage other people to participate.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I kind of I'm with John a bit, especially personally. I've been at the chief delegate round of every single Eden election so far, trials and reals. So I probably should let someone else fill that seat for a while.
Aaron, I suspect I know what you're going to say.
I will probably shed this hat. And like these two have already said, which I'm sure me pointing in different directions doesn't make sense for your screens. But yeah, I probably will not run. I think that my time at this point needs to go elsewhere, whether that's to the broader EOS.io initiative or through some direct team managing some project. I mean, I jumped into Eden because I knew we needed problems, or we had problems that needed to be solved. And now there
problems.
we have plenty. We don't need any more. But no, there are other means to solve problems now that are bigger than Eden at this point. Like Eden can't meet all of the needs, and so I'd probably go into a different system. I'd still really like to be involved in the leadership process and helping people figure this stuff out, but when I asked about who's going to develop it, I can't. So it's, I don't know. I hesitate on whether I'd even encourage people to run in an Eden 1 process at this point. If the system's not going to be maintained and not evolved, then I don't want to put people through this uncertainty.
Yeah, I think we're best off migrating to Eden 2.0.
Well, you know what that is, and none of us do. And we for over a month now.
Well, I think it depends on if you need funds or not. And I think everyone who said no doesn't necessarily need this incremental amount of funds that this Eden system delivers. And,
well, Eden 2.0 gives funds in a form, you get reimbursed for work in a form.
Right, but if you do Eden, I understand that, but if you do Eden 1 and you do Eden 2, that's more funds than if you would just do Eden 2.
More funds doesn't necessarily mean, well, is it more funds? Because funds that are in Eden 1 is funds that aren't going towards Eden 2. It depends which system bears bears more fruit. And from what I see, Eden 2.0, the incentives are better in line to bear more fruit than what we're getting out of Eden 1.0 today as well.
Yeah, but you could do both though.
Would they share the same treasury? That's an interesting
No.
question.
Yeah, well, how do you know how much money should go towards Eden 1.0 and Eden 2.0?
Right. Well,
Well,
that's up to the.
You don't have to share it or whatever there.
Well, I mean, it's how well we can prove that Eden 1.0 works, which is hard to do when the team behind it has wandered off to something else and the system is not evolving. And then how much goes into 2.0, which we don't even know what it is at this point. Like,
And then 2.0, they will wander off to 3.0.
potentially,
Oh shit.
potentially.
Well, Aaron, I believe I remember you saying previously that they should run in parallel for a while. And
Probably.
now you're saying that they shouldn't, it sounds like.
I didn't say that. I mean,
That
I
they
think
should run in parallel?
You didn't say that they shouldn't run in parallel.
that they shouldn't.
That's what you're implying, it sounds to me.
No, I'm just saying there's no way of determining which we should do because we have one product that has stopped development completely and another product that we don't know what it is. So how do we decide which one gets more funding? That was my point. We can't decide either right now. Like Eden 1.0 is clearly not proving that it's useful because there's no systematic evolvement going on in this. Whereas we can't even judge 2.0. John might be able to judge 2.0. I can't. I have no idea what it is. I've seen an infographic.
But that's theory. That's theory. That's
All right.
not something that has been
I
tested.
think Eden 1.0 is useful because it allowed me to run the bees.
Yeah.
And without it, the bees would not exist. So
Yeah.
True.
Jesse, you haven't answered the question yet. Would you run in Eden
yes,
1.0?
I would run in both. I would do everything that I can because that's just the situation of my funding environment right now.
Cool.
I'd love to see
Um,
this turn into more of less focus on funding and more focus on leadership. I think that this process, the Eden 1.0 process, may end up being superior for leadership qualities.
Yeah, that's good.
Whereas 2.0 sounds like it's all monetary incentive and it's not going to result in good leadership. It'll result in good salesmanship. I don't know. There's a word here.
Brinks
No,
and
that's
shit.
the word.
I echo that.
If you have good leaders in Eden 1.0, what exactly would they lead?
Whatever.
We tell the people in
What are we leading right now?
We would
If not
become
our-
we could be equivalent to the Telos Foundation in Telos, and then the BPs would give us authority to appoint the ENF. That's something we could do. There's a suggestion.
Shit.
Or it's, I mean, when this process first started, I imagined you could run a blockchain with this process. Like this group could pick VPs for a different chain. I'm not saying for EOS specifically, because we're in a stake weighted ecosystem, but this political playoff process could replace DPoS.
Yeah. For the selecting the ENF people, don't forget, there's a lot of people who didn't really, like Eve himself could participate, Zach can participate, we all can participate. Like there's a lot of people who who are part of Eden who don't participate. If they knew that the outcome of an election was actually steer this chain, I think you'd see a lot more high quality folks come to the table and present high quality pitches. And if we trust this process, then the people who end up at the top will be quality people who can appoint a very quality ENF, which probably be the same people we currently have in the ENF. I'm not at all suggesting that needs to change, but then how they got there would be a lot more legitimate in my view.
And that's part of the reason to prove this process out is, I mean, you've even seen people say as much is like eventually the organizations that exist that are funded by the network should be run through some election process. That seems like an Eden 1 process. And from everything I know of Eden 2, I don't think that process works for electing leadership. We'll see. I mean, again, I don't know a whole lot, but it seems really focused on money and building up smaller communities. So I have no idea. I can't
All right,
wait to poke holes in it.
Yeah,
My
let's
job.
suspend our commentary, I guess, until we have more information, because we're kind of just in endless cycles of speculation now.
Right.
And we had a couple more topics that we wanted to touch on. One is just real quick, if we could clear up any of the naming confusion issues. Maybe Aaron, you could be
Sure.
probably best positioned to handle that one.
Sure. So the names that we were talking about for tomorrow that is the Eden, whatever Eden 2.0, which we've all been calling it, is going to be named. It's this new process. That name will come out from Dan, I'm assuming tomorrow. The other naming that's going on is what EOS.io, the technology platform, not the blockchain, but like the whole platform that Bio, Wax, Telos, EOS, Proton, UX, all of these blockchains operate using, that is being talked about and being renamed by the EOS.io Plus group right now. It's coming up with the new branding, new name, building an organization to help facilitate the collaboration of the various chains that depend on this technology. And that is subject to be renamed. There's a lot of confusion, and that's part of why the renaming is so important. Because a lot of people think we're renaming EOS, whether that be the blockchain or the token. And while that may happen in the future, I am not aware of any plans right now of anyone actually working on renaming anything EOS related, the blockchain and the token. So that maybe somebody's kind of brainstorming in the background and something may come of that. But as far as I know, the only reason anybody's talking about EOS being renamed is because they confuse it with EOS.io, the technology. So,
well, in the first recording of the EOS.io Plus group, Eve did say that the EOS may change its name for business purposes.
yeah, and it may. So, but as far as I know, it's not.
Do you know if does EOS, the EOS name, is it connected to the IP issue, or is it just the symbol the name is also?
I think so.
This is
I think,
tangled up with the IP.
Yeah, all the trademarks were around both EOS, the EOS logo, EOS.io, the EOS.io logo, bunch of Block One related assets.
Yeah, there's a pretty good web page out there, like a nice short one-page web page that shows all of the trademarks and that Block One has.
And they sold that right to Bullish,
Right?
Or gave it or something.
Yeah,
Transferred it. Yeah.
I recently
know the details.
I recently rewatched the Brock Pierce, Michael Sullivan interview, and I'm so happy that Michael asked this question, which was, why does Bullish have the EOS IP? And Brock's answer was, well, sometimes we don't think things through good enough, basically.
Interesting.
So yeah, in hindsight, it seems like really
it adds value to Bullish.
Yeah.
So if they want to get the maximum SPAC price or however that works, it just adds to one of their assets. Is it rational? Does it make sense to the network and everyone else involved? Nope, probably not. I think that's probably Brock's point.
Yeah.
Was it correct for Block One to make that decision?
They own it, technically.
Yeah, so 4 billion gets raised on the name and the logo of EOS, and then the trademarks of that logo and the name is now just being given to a company that doesn't really care about the chain and is, an exchange that just happens to be using the blockchain, and that's about it.
It does feel like a gut punch.
Like imagine if Vitalik, because Vitalik has, I'm guessing, some sort of trademark or whatever of Ethereum, and he's like, nah, I'm going to sell this to,
Microsoft
a bank
or something.
Microsoft or Google, and now
Costco.
Google owns the trademark to Ethereum, and so now, Google might sue whoever's using the Ethereum logo. So
Yeah, that'd be pretty awkward.
I don't know. Maybe there's something on the other side that I'm not appreciating it, but yeah, from that side, it's a little bit disappointing.
Yeah, I think John just definitely described the community sentiment pretty well there. But there was something else in that interview that I found weird and interesting, which is that Brendan Bloomer is not a part of Bullish. Do you guys know this?
He's not even on the board.
No.
Is he like a big
stakeholders?
Big shareholder at least then?
Brock?
Or is B1 a shareholder in Bullish? What the hell did I do? Eh?
I need to pull this. I need to find it again because it was. I even watched. I like rewind. Wait, what did he say? I rewound it. Like
Then again,
he was describing the whole IP issue, and Brendan cannot make a public statement about the intentions of giving the IP back because he's not part of the organization.
Yeah.
I was like, what? So I don't know. I'm almost positive that's factually correct. I don't know.
Back to that analogy that I had, that like block one is like the father that abandoned us, and so now we're talking about the father that's like gone off and found another wife, and now he's having like kids. We're like the abandoned first child that they had. Like it's not good. I don't, we're not gonna be happy talking about whatever they've come up with. I don't think.
I'm gonna give you stepkids the Ferrari.
Yeah.
And
the one big happy family over there.
Yeah.
Which is the abandoned child.
Well, this abandoned child might come into its own a lot faster, not being coddled by some absent. I guess that's kind of contradictory, but
no, based on some of these things, it just makes me think that the developers of EOS.io never thought that EOS was going to amount to anything.
Wait,
so
what?
basically, yeah, that's how it sounds to me, because it's like they basically did whatever that they wanted to do because they thought EOS was going to die.
Like it was a sacrificial lamb or something.
Yeah.
Wait, what are you on about? The EOS.io developers?
I'm talking about Block One.
Oh, you mean block? Oh, so not like the software developers then?
Yeah. Like,
I think it's probably closer to legal issues than it is that.
I think Block One still had faith in the chain, but yeah, the legal issues got in the way, and then better financial opportunities and better economic incentives went, elsewhere, which caused them to,
So they sold the IP address with the EOS logo and everything to a company that does not even know about blockchain.
The IP address.
Yeah.
Well, you would hope they know about blockchain.
They do.
Bullish does run on a blockchain.
Yeah,
Bullish runs on EOS.io.
Yeah.
I said IP address, right? Yeah. Did I say IP address?
Yeah, you said IP address.
No. But Chris said the only thing that makes sense, at least. I mean, that's kind of the only explanation that I heard that's actually reasonable.
Yeah.
All right, moving on.
Yeah, let's move on. I'm
reasonable.
kind of regretting that I brought up Block One.
Again, our dad has left us and started another family. So
look what it does.
You guys ever see the Umbrella Academy?
Mm-hmm.
That kind of reminds me of like the EOS.io Plus. It's like the Umbrella Academy. It's like all the kids getting together after the death of the father to try
Figure
and
out what's going on.
figure out what's going on. Anyway, random Netflix reference. I think that was Netflix. Anyway,
yeah.
Blue Papers. Did you want to touch on the Blue Papers real quick as the final item I have on the list here? I think
Aaron looks shocked.
Yeah, he looks shocked. I think I'll jog your memory though. It was mostly we were just talking about how the Blue Papers are going to change. Like the recommendations in the Blue Papers are going to change so much that I think you were kind of talking about this before we started the official recording. But I don't know if you wanted to ruminate on that at all.
I think I touched on that a little bit when I was talking about my update with account creation and like the efforts that I can do with a Eden budget versus like, okay, let's make a real proposal that is for all EOS.io networks and do that kind of thing. But yeah, there is a lot in these papers that could fundamentally change the direction that we've been on for the past couple of years. I know 2 of the papers are like post-processing at this point and will be ready, and 2 of them are still being finished, with still being the release, but each one of them just contains so many ideas that could potentially alter how we build applications and how we move this chain forward and how we interact with other blockchains. Creating, it's a lot of people that have been around for a long time and just been watching these problems exist without solutions. And now it's time to bring those solutions up in a hopefully a meaningful way. So that way things like all the foundations from all the various chains can look at these and be like, yeah, that would help us. External businesses that have tried to build on EOS.io but ran into a roadblock could point at something and be like, yeah, that would have solved our problem. And groups like us can look at this stuff and think about how it could impact processes like Eden and make this process better. It's a chance to do this big conversation and retrospective on how we do things today and how we could do them better tomorrow. Everybody's switching to space backgrounds and it's throwing me off.
I'm doing an interview later. I'm trying to get ready.
That's cool. John did the same thing. I need to change mine.
That's really funny.
I'm gonna be on like the Voyager. So yeah, that one's better.
Oh, that's very cute.
But yeah, the blue papers, I think there's gonna be a lot to talk about when these come out. And hopefully everybody engages
What's the
where they
ETA
can. For
blue paper?
I don't have dates specifically.
I can tell you Audit Plus is going to be the first one out of the gate, and then we promised we'd have it out before the end of this month. So we're working that as fast as we can. And then next up is Core Plus, but I don't have a date on that.
And then I would anticipate API after that, and I am anticipating Wallet
I'm sorry,
to be the last one.
I didn't mean Audit. I meant API. Or no, did I mean?
No, you're right.
Shit.
Yeah, Audit
Yeah.
Plus.
Audit Plus. Okay.
And for clarity on where I'm at, like when the papers are quote unquote done from the writer's perspective, that's when they leave my hands and they go into the ENF's hands. And I can ask questions, but I kind of lose track of where they go after it's being branded and translated and getting ready to be published and all that stuff. So I don't know dates. I can tell you when the papers are probably done from like the writer's perspective. But then there's the post-processing that happens that I'm not involved in. So soon I'm ready to be done.
Translation is gnarly.
Yeah. I don't envy whoever has to translate these things. It can be dense and they are long.
Yeah. And
So,
technical. Yeah.
Yeah. We tried to remove a lot of the technical just because most people aren't going to want to read it, but it exists. I mean, there's hundreds of pages of content that you probably won't even see in the blue papers that is just going to exist because it didn't fit in that paper. But then once somebody engages and asks a question about that thing, we have just this archive of content that we've written that we can go in and be like, okay, what did we think about this? And like pull a chunk out, write a blog post or something.
Mhm.
So it's going to be that sort of back and forth engagement after they are released. And we'll probably do that for a while before a grander vision is set.
Is there going to be a video before the release of the blue papers?
No, I wish. I'm jealous of Dan's flexibility and being able to present ideas in different ways. Because I've been in blue paper world for 4 or 5 months now, and I'm not a good writer. I wish I could just hop on a video and then like, hey, today we're going to talk about this topic. It'd be
Well, it'll be
a
nice
lot
to
easier
have.
for me.
I think you can do it, Aaron.
I probably will. I mean, I don't know how eager I'm going to be to write like another couple 80-page documents.
I think once we have the first round of blue papers in motion, we are going to be picking your brain and getting you on calls and camera in order to help people digest what they're, what the documents
Yeah.
represent. So, because you're uniquely positioned to be able to translate these for
Yeah.
people. So
As
Aaron
somebody that
should
was
do rants
involved
like
in all of them. Yeah.
yeah,
I've-
totally. And
I've left that comment a few places. I was like, where do I post my rants? So,
use your
and I-
use your Eden budget to pay for somebody to process your rants and just upload them to YouTube for you.
True. I don't have time for rants yet, though. Let's finish the papers and then we'll talk about rants. You guys get my rants now. They get all bottled up all week, and then we all get on this call, and inevitably, like, a topic comes up that I'll rant about. So
Yeah, but they need to be clipped.
they do.
Aaron Cox tied to a chair for 24 hours. Rants on rants on rants.
Can we
I'm
just tell
definitely-
Chuck to default clip all of Aaron's rants? Because I had to
No.
talk to him. No?
I mean, if you want to, that's fine. I don't want to talk. I don't want to be the one that talks a lot in these calls. Like, I try to stay quiet a lot.
No, no, you gotta talk. Like,
I gotta write it right
I'm
now.
coming- I'm
I'll
coming
talk
from a
afterwards.
place, like, video content is the most superior by far form of communication from a marketing perspective. And so all of our thought leaders, I would say, need to be on video doing rants, 3, 5, 7-minute like chunks. This is the Charles Hodgkinson like strategy, and he has the right strategy.
Can
Like,
you
I
just
saw this
credit
thing-
somebody else? Just because.
No, it's not even about it's about the medium, not about his content,
I
but
know.
the medium that he chooses. And he even encourages, I'm not saying this is a good thing, but I saw the other month that the Cardano Foundation puts out guides for their validators, or whatever they call them, their miners, to like a YouTube channel 101, and to talk and to do rant like things. And so we need to do that. And I think, Aaron, if you need help with that at all, please, I would very much encourage you to do so.
Awesome. It's appreciated. And I do think we just need to open up all the communication. I know I have sent that message to a couple people recently, just that, like, let's open up the comms at this point.
Yes.
And make as much public as possible. I'm really happy that the EOSIO Plus group is doing everything publicly at this point. Like, we just did the call right before this call for meeting number 5 or something, and that's going to be published. Like, let's just have more open conversations.
So
and this rant format is great for that.
Back to the Chuck. So I've been communicating with Chuck, and he had asked, because I like, Chuck, what do you think about clips? How should we do this? And he said that you got to tell me what you want clipped. And so I told him, but I proposed that he goes through the video. If there's an Aaron rant in there, it should be clipped, like by default.
You could do it by topic too. I mean, I'll be honest, I haven't watched the last video that was done. I haven't had time to, nor am I going to remember what we talked about this week in order to be like, yeah, you should clip this. So, I mean, somebody with like that, the mind that,
Yeah.
it's not the person that is the thought leader about the technology. It's the person that's the thought leader about, like, okay, what messages need to get out, needs to be able to look at this and be like, oh, we need to, let's make sure this idea is expressed in a smaller clip.
Yeah. If
It's not
Chuck
me.
needs,
I don't know how to do that.
if Chuck
Well,
needs
Aaron,
somebody else,
I propose
Yeah.
that I can do that. If Chuck by default at least clips it, not necessarily public, I can go through the clips, and then I can talk to you and present them. Okay, I can give you my opinion. This is positive. This should go out. Maybe this is too negative. Not should go out.
I mean, this whole video is public, so anybody who wants to clip anything,
No, it's
They're free to do
unrealistic,
so.
Aaron. It's not like, it's
it'd
just not how it
it'd
works.
be cool.
no, the
It'd be
point is,
cool
is
if we
that I
had
don't
a-
care what they clip. I don't care who clips what and where. Like, feel free to take these ideas
Yeah, but I'm asking you because you're paying for Chuck to video edit.
Yep.
And that's extra work for him. If I tell him to default by clipping all of Aaron's rants.
I wouldn't tell him to do that, but I think we're getting into the weeds.
I'll drop it.
Yeah. I would prefer somebody with a good overall awareness of what's going on
Yeah.
in these meetings to just watch the meeting and timestamp what they think are relevant sections to be pulled out, whether that's Chuck or you, Jesse, or somebody else. That, I mean, that's a job. Like when you edit, you first, I mean, and we talked about this before, you sit down and you watch. You can't edit until you know what you're editing. So the first thing to do is to sit down, do what you got to do to get in the zone, and just do
Yeah, Chuck
timestamps.
can do that.
Justin, you
Chuck can
can
do it, but Aaron's saying not to do it.
No, he's not saying
No,
not
I'm not
to do
saying
it.
not to do that.
You
I'm
said
saying
I
I don't
wouldn't
care
do
what
that.
is clipped.
Well, he's saying he wouldn't exclusively focus on pulling every single Aaron rant out
Yeah.
and making that like a priority, rather
Why
than
not?
take a more holistic view of, well, because
That's
there's
fine.
6 of us here.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if Chuck thinks something is important, or if any of you think something is important and worth clipping, that's fine. It doesn't have to just be this one thing that you mentioned. That's all I'm saying. Like, if you think that's a priority, cool. Maybe somebody else thinks something else is a priority. It's cool too. I don't know. We're in the weeds on this.
Yes, indeed we are. Anyone have any words of wisdom to close this out besides stay out of the weeds?
I want to know, you said that first you'd have to get in the mood to do the editing. What do you mean by that?
Well, I can say as somebody that worked in Hollywood for a little while in the industry, a lot of people will use cannabis when they do the time stamping portion of editing. Sit down, because it's hours of sitting there, and you notice things that you might not otherwise notice. Now, for the actual editing portion, don't use the cannabis. Bad idea.
Don't use
It's only useful when you need to slow down time.
Exactly. Yeah. When you need to slow down time, it's very helpful. Otherwise, for getting the actual work done, not recommended. Unless you're a rare human being.
Not financial advice.
Not financial advice. Not health advice. Nothing of that. No.
It's not advice at all.
No. Did I say anything? I don't know if I said anything. Well, watch Chuck have fun with clips on that section. Oh man. There goes my career's over. No, it's 2022. We can say cannabis. It's allowed. It's illegal in almost half the states in the US now.
Allowed. I
Like
can
you're
be
saying
blazing right here.
We can do that on our final chief delegate call. We'll all get
Yeah,
our.
we should get like some beer and wine or whatever else on our
Yeah.
last call.
Yeah.
Just celebrate it.
And every time
But our-
someone says like a key word, they gotta do a shot, and by the end of it, it's all sloppy. That's funny as hell.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that maybe the keyword should be like block one or something.
Oh no.
Kind of tying back a couple topics we've hit on, the whole are you going to run into the next election thing? Like, for a long time now, I've been thinking like I probably wouldn't participate again. But one thing I was looking forward to the next election is being part of the group that's just like there helping the operation go on, and like Mike and the crew as they were around in the main channel and like hanging out with almost the audience that wasn't participating. Like,
a mentor.
I look forward to that.
Yeah, be like a mentor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just like you're like a volunteer at a polling place at that point, just
Mhm.
seeing how things unfold, except it's this interconnected, crazy process that's a big experiment and
Hmm.
probably isn't inside like a fire station or something.
But could be.
Could be.
Yeah, I like that idea. Chris, before your next call, you got to fix your backdrop. It's slid over to the side and your Helios logo is
True.
broken.
You know what? I wouldn't have noticed. Thank you. Yeah, let me fix that right now.
Just trying to help. Just trying to help out where I can.
Thank you. Very observant.
All right, guys. Let's call it a night, shall we?
Sounds good.
Good meeting.
All right, guys. Have a great
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Cheers.
Thanks for showing up. Go EOS.
Go,
And
yes.
we'll see you all next time.